So now we've worked on our starting position. We've worked on the key positional concepts for all things riding. Now we're just gonna work right into common breakdowns off the whistle. I think it's no secret, the most common breakdown off the whistle would be a tight waist chop. I still utilize this every day in the practice room. I think this is something that is highly effective and for good reason. So we're just going to dive into some of those positional concepts and key points to getting a tight waist chop breakdown. So off the whistle, Jake's set. Again, I get set with my knee wedged. I close that space. My elbows are in. The first thing I want to do off the whistle is I want to bump him with my back leg. Okay, I bump him forward with my back leg. Again, I have that leg wedged. So off the whistle, I bump. I get that weight off his heels just a little bit. I just need to get a little bit of weight forward because as I shift him forward, I'm taking more weight off of his hips that are underneath him and I'm putting them on his hands. Once I get more weight on his hands, now when I chop, I'm taking away a lot greater percentage of his base and what's holding him upright, and that's what's going to in turn get him to the mat. Secondly, as I bump forward, I'm going to wedge my knee. When a lot of times we'll start here, but if I'm starting a little bit off to give myself a little extra driving power, I drive forward. I'm going to wedge my knee right in to the side of his knee. I may be right below the knee. I may come over the top. There's a lot of different options. Probably my most common is I bump and I'll block right in front of the knee. The reason I block in front of the knee is I eliminate him from hitting a quick knee slide. Right here, as I'm chopping, he can't slide his knee. If I'm out here and I chop, he can continue to slide his knee forward. So on this chop, I'm starting. The first thing I'm doing is I'm squeezing his ribs while I drive him forward. Squeezing, driving forward. Now I'm blocking, wedging. As I block, I continue to drive this back leg up his crotch, and I'm gonna chop his arm, and I wanna drive him straight to his head. Now another huge component, as you can see right now, my knee is buried. One common error that a lot of people will make when they do this is they will transfer the power from their own hips to their arms. Meaning, as I hit this chop, I bump them forward, and now, as you can see, my legs are straight. There's not a lot of power left in my legs. Now it's all arms squeezing. Additionally, there's this huge gap right here. Even if I bring my hips down, there's nothing wedging him forward. So for him to push back into me and build up to his base is a lot easier. When I hit this, I chop, I bump, squeeze these ribs, block, chop. My knee, as you can see, is right up his crotch, and I'm squeezing from both sides, both his arm and his ribs. So now for him to build up as he tries to push back into me, there's not a lot of room for him to push his hips up. Notice what he just did when he pushes back into me. His upper body starts to come up, but his lower body isn't moving as much. That's what I want. So from a little different angle, we'll go from this side. I'm wedged behind. Watch this knee. Block. Switching sides. Watch this knee. Look at my knee follow. It doesn't stay back here. It follows. It continues to follow. At this point, there isn't a lot of drive from the ground. The drive is simply me driving my knee up towards my chest. But I will, as I drive it, as he tries to counter this, I will continue to step until I can wedge this knee up into his crotch. Once I have this wedge, again, for him to push back into me, I'm holding him up with my knee. So simply put, I take away that arm, this arm right here, this bottom arm right here. He's going forward. Okay, from a forward view, now you can see more of his arms. driving in. His arm's almost gone. He may still be holding this up, but remember, my knee's wedged in. You don't see it right now. My knee's wedged in. He can't push back into me. Okay, he can't push himself. There is space between his heel and his hips. His heel and his hips, there's space, so he cannot push back. His weight is forced to stay on his arms. Now, as I take out this arm, I'm simply going from a C grip, as we would be normally, around on the starting whistle, and I'm just gonna bring that thumb with me. I'm gonna bring that thumb with me, and now I'm just chopping straight in to my own waist. I drive that knee forward. I maintain right here. Now we can look for a lot. There's a half, there's a bar arm, there's a claw. There's a lot of turns we can work to. Most times when I hit this, I will try to catch this bottom wrist. If I can't catch this bottom wrist because he's not letting me, I will continue to hold this arm. I'll stay back. I think that's one thing that is often forgotten, and I did state a few minutes ago. I will stay back where my chest is covering his hips. I'm not afraid of his chest coming up. That actually helps me work into the turns, which we'll get to next. When his hips come up, however, I need to break those back down to get to a good turn. So if I can drive him here and stay low, okay, he starts bringing his head up. That's where we're going for our crossface. Now, flipping all the way around, watching from the back angle. I'm on top. Want to be equally dangerous on both sides, so definitely practice this on both sides. I think that's important. I'm wedging my knee, getting my other knee as close to his ankle as I can, feeling comfortable. Elbows in tight. I extend him. Now I start to drive. Step, block. Block his inside knee so he can't knee slide. Now I drive my back knee up his crotch and I chop. Right here. Okay, turning him sideways. Right here. He is stuck. I chopped. I'll feed this arm to my opposite wrist so I can have a cross wrist. We can go to a lot of tilts from here. I prefer, as I do this, if he bellies out, I come up to the crossface. We'll work into there later on, but that's one of our useful breakdowns. Again, one of the most common breakdowns. If you can really master this, you're always going to be a tough opponent on top, because very simply, if he counters me on this side, I can come to this side. If he counters me on this side, I can come back to this side. And just a game of timing of when I can finally drive that knee up his crotch and I can collapse over his arm. Now I have a good ride. Now I can look to turn. So go out and try it. Make sure you put a lot of emphasis on keeping your weight back. We never want our chest to get above his mid-back. I'm here. I never want my chest to come above his mid-back. I want to maintain my chest on the center of his back the whole time. Chop both sides. Chop, chop. Drive, knee up the butt. Chop. Cover. Again, chest now over his low back and hips. And then I don't let him come up. Go out, give it a try. We'll work on to the next breakdown next.